Claire Moreno was not famous. She had no criminal record, no enemies, no secrets that anyone knew of. She was a 32-year-old graphic designer who took the same route to work every day. And yet, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, she became the center of one of the most disturbing disappearances ever captured on camera. What happened to Claire Moreno defies logic, and the way she came back defies reality. It happened in broad daylight. Downtown was crowded. People everywhere. Cars honking, shop signs flickering, and surveillance cameras watching from every corner. And yet, at exactly 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday, a woman named Claire Moreno walked across a busy intersection and vanished. Not in the sense that she turned a corner and wasn't seen again. No, she was walking mid-step on the crosswalk. Then her image shimmered on the traffic camera feed, and the next frame, she was gone. No cut, no glitch, no distortion. Her purse dropped to the asphalt, still zipped, still untouched. Witnesses claimed they blinked and she simply wasn't there. A truck driver swore he saw her dissolve like mist. Another woman said she felt a gust of wind and heard a faint ringing. Police reviewed every angle, every CCTV within 3 blocks. Nothing. 1 minute, Claire existed. The next, she was a missing person with no trail, no ransom, no crime scene, no logical explanation. 10 years later, at 4:03 in the morning, a woman rang the doorbell of a small police outpost on the edge of Pine Valley. She said her name was Claire Moreno, but her fingerprints were smooth. Her face was 15 years younger than her age, and she hadn't aged a day. They say people disappear every day, but this one was different. She was seen, in front of dozens, captured on camera, and then gone. This isn't the kind of mystery that fades over time. It's the kind that claws into the mind, makes you stare at that 1 second of footage, wondering if your eyes are playing tricks on you or if something much darker is hiding behind the ordinary. My name is Marcus Hale. I'm a private investigator, and I don't believe in magic, but I've learned to respect the unexplained, especially when it stares you dead in the face with no blink. Claire Moreno vanished 10 years ago. Now she's back, but younger. No scars, no memories, no medical history. The system doesn't know what to do with her, and truth be told, neither do I. So I did what I always do. I followed the evidence, even when it didn't make sense, even when it led me down roads that people had worked hard to bury. This case isn't about time travel or miracles. It's about something far more real and far more terrifying. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button if mysteries like this keep you up at night. Leave a like if you've ever felt something didn't add up, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, which city, which country, because today we're crossing borders, memories, and maybe even science itself. Let's go back to the first clue. Let's go back to where she vanished and start there. The intersection at Holloway and 5th hadn't changed in a decade. Same cracked pavement, same blinking yellow light, same cheap coffee shop with a flickering neon sign across the street. I stood there at 3:17 p.m., same time Claire vanished, and nothing happened. No shimmer, no gust of wind, just silence. I reviewed the original footage frame by frame. The shimmer didn't look like any standard distortion. It was focused around her, like heat rising from asphalt, then gone. The light on her skin twisted, then disappeared. I checked the temperature readings from that day. Everything was normal, only her. I interviewed the old man who sold newspapers on that corner. He hadn't forgotten. She just blinked away, man, like someone erased her with a remote. I asked if anything strange had ever happened before or after that. He shook his head. Only Claire. Only that once. Across the street, the coffee shop owner had her own theory. She remembered a man in a gray coat sitting at the corner table. He was always there that week, watching. Didn't drink, didn't talk, and the day after she disappeared, he was gone too. I pulled the city's security grid from the archives, cross-referenced footage for faces at that intersection for the full week before the event. Found him. Gray coat, dark glasses. The same man showed up on 6 different cameras, but never for more than a minute and never twice in the same place. I ran his face through facial recognition databases. No matches. No driver's license, no passport, no record of existence. I found that harder to explain than Claire's disappearance itself. Because erasing a person from time, maybe, but erasing them from government databases, that takes intent. By now, Claire was being held at Pine Valley Medical under supervision. They said she was calm, polite, didn't remember a thing about the last 10 years. But when I showed her a photo of the man in the gray coat, her eyes widened just slightly. She whispered, "He's the reason I'm not dead." Her voice cracked. I don't know who he is, but I remember him saying, "We had to pause you. You were too early." Then she cried. I didn't press her, not yet. That night, I stood again at the crosswalk. I watched the shadows bend around the light, and I wondered, what kind of power can stop time for one person, erase them from the world, and bring them back younger? And why would they ever need to? Somewhere in that intersection, there was a fracture, not in the pavement, but in time. And someone in a gray coat had the key. Now I had a face, a shimmer, and a question. What happens when someone presses pause on a life? I've seen faces I couldn't forget if I tried. Killers, victims, men who lied with their eyes. But this one, the man in the gray coat, he didn't lie. He simply wasn't there. Not in the system, not in the memories of witnesses, not in the world. I revisited the footage, 6 appearances across the city, always within 1 block of Claire, never interacting, just watching, like he was waiting for something, or someone, like he knew exactly when the moment would come. The software couldn't find a match, so I did it the old-fashioned way. I printed frames, visited bars, train stations, churches. I asked the kind of people who notice things, people with long memories and loose morals. But all I got were blank stares or fear. A woman at a pawn shop finally cracked. She remembered the coat, not the man. She said it was government issue, not American. British maybe, or Eastern European. Something designed to blend in without disappearing completely. I checked international arrivals for the week Claire vanished. There was a customs log. One name, a John R. Rourke, who entered on a diplomatic visa. No photograph, just a signature. And when I called the embassy it was tied to, they said no such person existed. And then they hung up. I went to Claire again, this time with that name. She hesitated, then nodded, slowly, like someone trying to match a sound to a dream. She whispered, "He said he'd come back when it was safe." Safe? From what? That's what I asked, but she didn't know, or wouldn't say. And when I asked her what he looked like, she stared through me, then said, "He didn't have a shadow." That's when I knew I was in over my head, because I've dealt with killers, smugglers, cult leaders, but not people who bend light, not people who erase shadows. This wasn't supernatural, it was engineered, and that meant someone was behind it, someone with reach and silence. That night, I got a visit. Two men in dark suits, no names, no badges, just a message. Stop asking about John Rourke. They didn't threaten, they didn't smile, they just waited until I nodded, and then they disappeared into a car with no plates. I didn't sleep. I packed a bag and drove west, toward Pine Hollow, toward the place I'd been warned not to go, because whatever Claire was caught in, it didn't end with her, and I had the feeling someone else was about to vanish. The road to Pine Hollow wasn't on any modern map. It was overgrown, cracked from beneath, like the earth wanted it gotten. My GPS lost signal halfway up the ridge, and that's when I saw the fence. Tall, rusted, crowned in barbed wire, but the lock had been cut recently, clean, like someone had come through or wanted someone to. Past the fence was silence. No birds, no wind, just an oppressive hum in the air, as if sound itself had been vacuumed out. The building stood in the middle of the clearing, low, concrete, and half covered in moss. It looked like an abandoned bunker, but the air still smelled like antiseptic. Inside, the halls were lined with lights that still worked, dim, flickering, but active. The floors were clean, too clean. No graffiti, no dust, no mold, like time didn't live here. The first room I entered looked like a lab. Medical chairs, monitors, a refrigeration unit, but no patient files, no names, just numbered bracelets, and a symbol etched into a steel door in the back, a spiral swallowed by a triangle. I found a journal, half burned, tucked behind a ventilation grate. Most of it was unreadable, but a few lines survived. Subject CM31 displays cellular rejuvenation beyond model parameters. Exposure time reduced to under 6 minutes. Full recovery estimated in Phase 2 window. Then, scribbled at the bottom, do not reverse without psychological anchor. Further in, I reached a circular room, and that's where I saw them. Pods, 6 of them, each one fogged with condensation. 5 were empty, the 6th filled with dark fluid. Something moved inside, something human, but wrong, too still, too silent. Then I heard the click, a door behind me closing, followed by footsteps, measured, soft, and then a voice, familiar. I told them not to bring you here yet. It was John Rourke. Gray coat, Same face, but now he had a name tag. Dr. Jonas Rourke, Temporal Biogenesis Lead. He looked at me, tired, not hostile, just inevitable. "You saw Claire," he said. It wasn't a question. She wasn't supposed to return this soon. I asked what this place was. He sighed. An attempt to buy time. For the body, not the world. He walked to the pod, tapped the glass. Inside, I saw her again. Claire, still sleeping, still submerged. I turned to him. "But she's awake. She came back." He nodded. That version did. This one never left. I felt the ground shift beneath everything I knew. He said they weren't cloning or duplicating. They were resetting cells, memories, biology, like a save point on a hard drive. But without a stable anchor, the restored version could drift, split, even multiply. Claire hadn't just vanished, she'd been overwritten. John Rourke didn't chase me, didn't threaten me. He just stood there, watching me realize what he was saying. Claire had been paused, reset, backed up like a computer file. And what we saw walking back into the police outpost wasn't a return, it was a copy. I asked him how. How do you reset a human being? He said it started with deep cell temporal encoding, a process designed to preserve organ function during near-death scenarios. But it evolved into something else, into the shimmer. He showed me the emitter, a small ring no larger than a bracelet. When activated, it created a temporal stasis field. Everything within was removed from the flow of time. No aging, no change, just pause. Perfectly still until reactivated. But the human mind doesn't like to be paused. It's not just memory that gets stored, it's emotion, instinct, trauma. When they brought Claire back, the first copy broke within minutes. The second had seizures. The third screamed for 4 hours straight. The one who walked into the police station was version 6. Stable, calm, but missing something. He called it anchor degradation. Too much time in stasis and the mind starts to drift, forget, warp, reconstruct reality. I asked why Claire was chosen. He said she wasn't. She was random. A bystander who stepped into a field test at the wrong time. And it worked too well, so they kept her, studied her, replicated her reactions, refined the process. But something went wrong. One version escaped. Rourke didn't know how, maybe a power failure, maybe a flaw in the reactivation code, but she got out, and she remembered just enough to come back and speak my name. That made me part of it, not a spectator, not a detective, but an anchor. The one thing that hadn't changed between versions, someone she trusted, someone who could ground her mind, keep the memory from fracturing. I asked him if she was dangerous. He paused, then said, "She might be. Not by choice, but by fragmentation. If she continues to remember conflicting realities, she could destabilize again. Or worse, infect others with the temporal pattern." I left the facility shaken, not because of what I saw, but because of what I now carried, a piece of her, a connection, an anchor. And in the wrong hands, that made me a key, not to her, but to whatever they planned next. I returned to Pine Valley, knowing she would find me again. And she did. 3 days later, on my doorstep, Claire, version 6. Same smile, same voice, but her eyes, they held memories that had never happened. She remembered the facility, the pods, Jonas Rourke, but also things no version could have seen. A room with stars on the ceiling, a funeral she had never attended, a beach she had never visited. They were fragments from others, versions she had never been. She said they were bleeding together, that time wasn't linear anymore. It looped, spiraled, folded in on itself. And she was all of them, every version, every reset, every pause, now waking up at once. I brought her inside, sat her down, made tea. We didn't speak for a long time, just sat in silence. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from weight, the unbearable load of too many lives. Then she looked at me, really looked, and whispered, "They're still doing it, to others, not just me." It wasn't an experiment anymore. It was a program, a protocol, and she was just the prototype.
I asked if she wanted to go back. She shook her head, said if they took her again, they wouldn't stop. They'd refine it, scale it, use it for soldiers, for spies, for control. She had a plan to erase the backups, destroy the emitters, wipe every record of her from their system. But she needed me, my memory, my connection, my anchor, because without it, she would slip again. We broke in together, back to the facility, used her ID, my bluff, and 30 minutes of silence. We reached the main server room. She plugged in, uploaded a cascade protocol, and watched as every version of herself burned, digitally, irreversibly. The place lit up with alarms. We ran, barely made it out through the fence before the whole building collapsed inward, like it had been designed to erase itself too. As if they expected this day would come, as if it was part of their timeline all along. Now, she lives off-grid. No phones, no photos. A woman with 6 lives and one final choice, to stay forgotten and free. As for me, I still see the shimmer sometimes, but now I know it's not magic, it's memory. Cases like these don't get filed away. They stay with you. Not because of what you saw, but because of what you now know. Reality bends more easily than we think, and the people pulling those strings, they're not wizards. They're scientists, bureaucrats, quiet men in gray coats. Claire Moreno will never be a normal name again. Not to me. Not to the versions of her that never made it back. She survived something no one should have survived. And in the end, she chose to disappear again. Not because she had to, but because she finally could. On her own terms. As for me, I'll keep chasing stories that don't make sense, because sometimes they lead to truths too big to fit in a case file. And sometimes, just sometimes, they lead you to a woman who vanished in daylight and came back younger to remind you that time only wins when we let it.